Welcome to Thrillers and African Tales, where African thrillers come to life. If you love suspense, drama, and mind blowing twists, hit that subscribe button now so you never miss a story. Emeka slid into the seat beside him. We know about the diamonds. Help us expose Kemi, and your name disappears from the files. Or don't, and tomorrow's headlines will feature your yacht photos. Silence. Then the chief sighed, brushing crumbs from his tie. What do you need? And the rest was history. Dusk painted the sky pink as we waved the chief's car away, his promise to testify tucked in our pockets. It's working, I breathed. Tunda pulled me close, his heartbeat steady under my palm. Because of you. Behind us, Emeka lit the bakery's neon sign for the first time in years. Kioma's delights flickered to life, casting a warm glow over the quiet street. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Breaking. Adenuga Hair announces surprise press conference tomorrow. Attached was a selfie of Madam Kemi, her smile brittle, eyes darting off camera. Tunda grinned. She feels the net tightening. Emeka handed me a rolling pin. Rest, boss. Tomorrow's the finale. The morning of the press conference, I stood in the bakery's tiny bathroom, wrestling with a stubborn curl while Emeka banged on the door. Hurry up! Tunde's speech is in an hour and you look fine. Actually, you look wow. I stepped out in the dress Tunde had secretly delivered, a deep green velvet gown that made my skin glow. Emeka whistled, then tossed me a hairpin shaped like a tiny rolling pin. Kioma's. Thought you should have it. My eyes stung. I wish she could see this. She can, he said softly, adjusting the pin in my hair. The Adenuga Group HQ buzzed like a beehive. Reporters jostled for space in the glittering lobby. From the back, I watched Tunde take the podium, his crisp white agbada, making him look every inch the king reclaiming his throne. Thank you all for coming, he began, voice steady. Today, we correct a lie. Everywhere went silent. The screen behind him lit up with the USB's contents, bank transfers, smuggled diamonds tucked in flour sacks, even Kemi's voicemail ordering my death. The crowd erupted. Then Madam Kemi stormed in. Lies! She shrieked, her designer gel tilting dangerously. This boy has been ill. Who believes in a madman? A familiar voice rang out. I do. Chief Okafor strode forward, holding a ledger. I've worked with Madam Kemi for years, and I'm ashamed to say every word Tunde spoke is true. Kemi's face purpled. You traitor! No, Tunde interrupted. A traitor betrays family. You were never family. He nodded to security. Please escort her out. As they dragged her away, she locked eyes with me and spat. You'll regret this, housemaid. Tunde's hand found mine under the podium. Ignore her, he whispered. Watch this. The screen changed to a live feed of federal agents raiding Kemi's mansion. In the attic, they found chains, empty drug vials, and a hidden safe full of documents proving she'd faked Tunde's death. The room exploded in camera flashes. Reporters swarmed, but Tunde steered me toward a private elevator. The moment the doors closed, he slumped against the wall, laughing breathlessly. We did it, he said, eyes bright. You did it, I corrected. Amara. He cupped my face, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. I was a ghost before you walked into that attic. The elevator dinged. We jerked apart to find Emeka holding 2 glasses of Zobo, grinning. Don't stop on my account. But first, he handed me a folded newspaper. The headline screamed, Adenuga's Revenge, Billionaire Exposes Aunt's Crimes. Below it, a smaller photo showed me beside Tunde, captioned, Mystery Woman Key to Investigation. You're famous, Emeka teased. Infamous, Tunde corrected, squeezing my hand. Which is why I have a proposition. Sunset at the bakery. Tunde spread blueprints across the flour-dusted table, Kioma's delights and more, an expanded space with a bakery downstairs and a sleek office above. Yours, he said. Run it how you like. Hire whoever you want, though I'd love to be your taste tester. Emeka fake gagged. I'll be outside vomiting. I laughed, then pointed to the blueprint's corner. What's this? Tunde's ears turned pink. A private apartment, in case the owner wants to live on site, with someone. Emika's head popped back in. God, just kiss already. So we did. Tunde tasted like Zobo and hope, his hands warm around my waist. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. Welcome home, Amara. The bell above the bakery door jingled nonstop all morning. By noon, every table was packed with customers nibbling puff-puff and sipping Zobo while whispering about the hero baker who toppled a billionaire's wicked aunt. I kept waiting to wake up from this dream. Then she walked in. Adesua. Tunde's ex-fiancé looked like a fashion magazine come to life. Gold bangles clinking, designer dress hugging curves that made my flour-stained apron look pathetic. The bakery fell silent as she glided to the counter. One chin-chin, please, she said, flashing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And congratulations. Emeka materialized beside me, arms crossed. We're out. Actually, I said, sliding a carefully prepared box across the counter, here's your order, on the house. Adesua's manicured fingers lifted the lid. Inside, instead of snacks, lay the newspaper clipping of her spitting on Tunde, now framed with Karma's recipe, 1 cup humility, 2 TBSP grace written in icing. The room held its breath. Then she laughed, a real belly-deep sound that shocked everyone. Oh, I like you, she said, tossing a wad of cash into the tip jar. Keep the change, madam. As she left, Tunde emerged from the kitchen, his arms dusted in flour. Was that your terrible ex? Emika finished. Yep, Amara just destroyed her with pastry puns. Tunde's eyes softened. Marry me. My spatula clattered to the floor. Too soon? He grinned, swooping in to steal a kiss before I could respond. That evening, we sat on the bakery's rooftop terrace, the city lights twinkling below. Tunde handed me a small loaf of bread shaped like a heart. Open it, he murmured. Inside, instead of dough, nestled a silver key and a folded note to the apartment downstairs, and to whatever comes next. T. Emeka's voice floated up from the kitchen window beneath us. If you two start singing, I'm throwing water. I burst out laughing, leaning into Tunde's shoulder, his arm wrapped around me, solid and warm. You never answered my question, he teased. Which one? I played dumb. The marriage proposal you made in front of 3 dozen customers and a very judgy sourdough starter? He turned my face toward his. In the golden light, his eyes were endless. Let's start smaller. Dinner tomorrow. Only if you cook, I bargained. Deal. His lips brushed mine. But fair warning, I only make jollof rice and trouble. Later, as I locked up, Emeka lingered by the door. You good? I asked. He hesitated, then pulled something from his pocket, a shiny new police ID badge. Got my sister's case reopened. They made me a consultant since I know all Kemi's tricks. I threw my arms around him. Kioma would be proud. Yeah, well, he cleared his throat gruffly. Don't get mushy, and don't let Tunde burn down my new crime lab with his terrible cooking. Through the window, we could see Tunde attempting to knead dough, his brow furrowed in concentration. Flour coated his eyebrows. Too late, I giggled. Emika groaned. I'll bring fire extinguishers to your wedding. I knew something was wrong when Mrs. Bello burst into the bakery at 7 a.m., her wig askew. Someone stole my moin moin recipe, she wailed, slamming a fist on the counter. And it reeks of Madam Kemi's cheap perfume. Behind her, Emeka nearly choked on his puff puff. Kemi's out on bail already? Tunde emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on an apron that read, "Kiss the baker," a gift from Emeka that he hated but wore anyway. No way she'd risk stealing recipes. Too petty, even for her. Unless I pulled out Kiyoma's old ledger, flipping to a flagged page. She wrote that Mrs. Bellow's recipe was used to hide diamond shipments. The coconut oil neutralizes metal detectors. Emika's badge flashed as he stood. I'll check Kemi's ankle monitor records. Amara, you already on it. I grabbed my Jill. We're paying Mrs. Bellow's kitchen a visit. Tunde caught my wrist. Take back up. He pressed a pepper spray keychain into my palm, shaped like a tiny rolling pin, and try not to start a food fight. Mrs. Bellow's kitchen smelled like betrayal. Her prized recipe book lay open, one page violently torn out. But the real clue? A lipstick stain on her teacup, the same shocking pink as Adesuwa's. That gold-digging Ashewo, Mrs. Bellow hissed. She came yesterday asking for cooking tips. Emeka's phone buzzed. Kimi's monitor shows she never left her house. But guess who visited her? Adesuwa. The pieces clicked. Adesuwa's helping Kimi rebuild their smuggling operation, I gasped, starting with the recipes. Then we heard it, a giggle from the backyard. We crept to the window. Adesuwa stood by a delivery van, handing a thick envelope to a man in sunglasses. The torn recipe page fluttered in her hand. Police! Freeze! Emeka burst through the door. Splat! Adesuwa hurled a bowl of egusi soup at his chest. Oops! She smirked, leaping into the van. I tackled her mid-stride, our struggle sending us crashing into a tower of empty flour sacks. White powder exploded around us like a snowstorm. You, cough, ruined my, cough, dress, Adesuwa screeched, swiping at me with her stiletto. You ruined moin moin, I countered, yanking the recipe page free just as police sirens wailed. Adesuwa fled, but not before hissing, This isn't over! Back at the bakery, Tunde tended to my flour-dusted hair, while Emeka sulked over his egusi-stained shirt. We got the recipe back, I offered, waving the page. And I got Adesuwa's van's plate number, Emeka grumbled. But next time, I get to tackle the pretty criminal. Tunde snorted. You'd break a hip. As they bickered, I noticed odd symbols scribbled on the recipe's back. Numbers, arrows, and... Are these dock coordinates? I gasped. Tunde's eyes darkened. Kimi's planning a new shipment. The bakery phone rang. An unfamiliar voice whispered, Stop digging, or the next recipe stolen will be yours. Click. Silence. Then, well, Emeka said, grabbing a chin-chin, guess we're having a stakeout at the docks tomorrow? Tunde groaned. I hate stakeouts. Good thing you're bringing love bread to keep us awake, I teased, kissing his scowling lips. Midnight at a papa port smelled of salt and secrets. Crouched behind a stack of shipping containers, I watched Tunde adjust the wire hidden under his navy blazer, the same one he'd worn to our fake engagement party last month. Remember the plan, Emeka whispered, tossing me an earpiece. We intercept the shipment, catch Kemi red-handed, and do not let Amara tackle anyone this time. Tunde's jaw tightened, especially not armed smugglers. A horn blasted, a cargo truck rolled toward Dock 7, its headlights off. Showtime. The trap snapped shut too fast. We burst from hiding just as Kemi's men unloaded crates marked premium plantain flour. Tunde flipped open the first one, glittering diamonds nestled in counterfeit grain sacks. Freeze! Police! Emeka's shout echoed across the water. Then a gun cocked. Adesuwa stepped from the shadows, her pink heels clicking against the concrete. but the pistol in her hand wasn't pointed at us. Sorry, Auntie, she purred, aiming at Kemi's chest, but diamonds cut deeper than family. Kemi's laugh was ice. You think I'd trust you without insurance? She snapped her fingers. Spotlights blinded us. 5 armed men emerged, barrels trained on our heads. Tunde moved first. He lunged, knocking Adesuwa's gun skyward just as it fired. The shot brought the port police running, but not fast enough. Kemi's men charged. Emeka drop-kicked one into the harbor. I swung a metal pipe at another, his teeth clattering against the dock. Then, cold steel pressed against my temple. Enough! Kemi hissed, dragging me backward toward a speedboat. You've ruined everything, but you won't live to gloat. Tunde froze, blood trickling from his split lip. Let her go. Take me instead. Oh, I will. Kemi's grip tightened. After you watch her. Splash! A 200-pound tuna smacked Kemi square in the face. We all stared as the fish slid off the dock. Then, oops, called a familiar voice. Mrs. Bellow stood on a fishing trawler, waving her moin moin recipe. Wrong bait. The distraction cost Kemi everything. Cuffs clicked. Dawn bled across the sky as police loaded Kemi and Adesuwa into separate vans. Emeka flexed his bruised knuckles. Told you we should have brought backup. You hired Mrs. Bellow? Tunde gaped. Nope. Mrs. Bellow handed me a note. Recipe for justice: 1 brave baker, 1 reformed ex-fiancé, maybe. 1 fish, fresh is best. Bake at high danger until golden. Eh? I blinked. Adesuwa helped us? Emeka grinned. Turns out she hates Kemi more than she hates you. The bakery smelled like victory that afternoon. Tunde bandaged my scraped elbow as reporters clamored outside. You were incredible, he murmured, kissing my forehead. We both were. I pulled him closer. Now what? From his pocket, he produced a tiny velvet box. But before he could open it, Emeka kicked the door open. Breaking news. He waved his phone. Kemi sang like a bird, exposed her entire syndicate, including Chief Okafor's replacement. Tunde groaned, hiding the box. Can't I propose in peace? Nope. Emeka plopped between us, stealing a puff-puff. But congrats. When's the wedding? The morning sun streamed through the bakery windows as I pulled a fresh tray of puff-puff from the oven, golden crispy and smelling like home. Tunde hovered nearby, uncharacteristically fidgety. You're blocking the sugar? I laughed, nudging him aside. Right. Sorry. He stepped back, then immediately stepped forward again. Amara, I ding! The doorbell chimed. A little girl skipped in, her school ribbons bouncing. 1 special order, please. I blinked. We don't have special orders on Tuesdays. This one says, for the brave baker. She pushed a note across the counter. Tunde's ears turned pink. I unfolded the paper. Follow the crumbs. The first clue led to the mixer. Taped to the handle was another note. Our first fight, you won, and a tiny pepper spray charm, like the one he'd given me. Emeka groaned from the corner where he was subtly filming everything. This is worse than Lagos traffic. The next clue hid in the proofing drawer, where you bandaged my burns. A Band-Aid wrapper from the night Tunde had attempted baking ajejie bread and set his sleeve on fire. Laughter bubbled up as I raced to the attic, now converted into our office. There, taped to Kyoma's old ledger, where you saw me, really saw me. Tunde stood by the window, sunlight gilding his profile, exactly like that first terrible, wonderful night. You remember, he whispered, every second. The final clue was a single key. It unlocked the bakery's storage room, now transformed into a miniature chapel. Twinkling lights, Mrs. Bellow sniffing into a handkerchief. Even Adesuwa lounged in the back, sipping zobo with a smirk. At the center stood a single loaf of bread, still warm. Tunde lifted it with trembling hands. I wanted to bake the ring inside, but Emeka said you might eat it by accident. The crowd erupted in laughter as he broke the loaf open. Nestled in the crust was a diamond-studded rolling pin charm. Marry me? He whispered. Not because you saved me, but because you see me, flower stains and all. I flung my arms around him, puff puff crumbs dusting his shoulders. Only if I get to plan the wedding cake. Deal. His lips met mine as Emeka fake gagged and Adesua toasted with her drink. Epilogue 3 months later. The Amara and Tunde bakery flag fluttered proudly over our 10th branch. Inside, customers jostled for our famous revenge puff puff, stuffed with spicy jam, while Mrs. Bello held court at the register. Emeka, now Inspector Emeka, strode in, flipping open a case file. New mission, someone stealing suya spice blends from... No! Tunde and I shouted in unison, then burst out laughing. Adesua slid onto a stool, dropping a newspaper on the counter. The headline read, Kemi sentenced to 20 years. Sent her a wedding invite, she said casually. She burned it. I handed her a cupcake iced with Karma's sweet. More for us. As the bakery buzzed with life, Tunde pulled me close, his lips brushing my ear. Ready for our next chapter? I grinned, as long as it's written in buttercream. 1 year later, the Adenuga Bakare conglomerate headquarters shimmered atop Lagos' tallest skyscraper, its glass walls reflecting the Atlantic's endless blue. I stood beside Tunde in the executive elevator, still gripping my floor-dusted apron like a security blanket. Relax, all aloof me, he murmured, straightening my pearl collar. The board already adores you, especially after you sent them those revenge puff puff last Christmas. The doors opened to a penthouse office where our bakery's first AGG bread sat encased in glass beside Tunde's recovered billion-dollar patents. The billionaire's new rhythm, 6 a.m. surfing at Takwa Bay, clears my head better than boardrooms. 9 a.m. strategy meetings with Emeka, now head of security. I, Amara, went from a classless cleaning girl to a madam. I feel fulfilled and happy. God of the poor have answered my prayer. I am happy with the love of my life, Tunde. He changed me forever. To life. If you love suspense, drama, and mind-blowing twists, hit that subscribe button now so you never miss a story.